Hello, I am Agnes Berengari de Helrona, and I'm here to teach you how to do stem stitch as part of the Embroidery for SCA period series. Stem stitch is a very popular stitch with many embroiderers, especially in the SCA. It's a very versatile stitch in that it can be a background stitch. It can fill in background. It can also be used for outlines. Today I'm going to work as an outline. It also works. It's a great way of playing with the nap of a thread. The nap, people don't think of threads having naps. They do when they're working with velvet. If you put one piece of velvet down and you don't align the nap of another piece of velvet, which means everything's going the same direction, they're going to show up as different colors. And so that's why we want to make sure the naps are different. Okay. So what I have here is a little piece of brick stitch that I was playing with years ago. So I'm coming back to this one because I realized, oh, hey, it's got stem stitch in it, or a split stitch in it. It's not using stem stitch, it's using split stitch. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and use it. I may have to go back and, take out all the black there, simply because I do not know where the threads for these projects went. But that's okay for now. I'm just not going to worry about it. Today I'm working on a lap frame from Kay's Creations. Lap frames and are, basically this is a roller bar. The bars here roll. So roll over and then you can tighten them down so that they stay. Roller bars are nice as a alternative to the period frame, which would be a slate frame. Is this a stitch that absolutely needs to have a frame? Probably not. You can, it's a good in-hand stitch. It's not necessarily, but I like working with frames because it gives me both hands available. And a slate frame, this lap frame means that it comes with its own personal little frame stand, and that is designed to be on a table or on a lap. I generally don't have much of a lap, so I put it on a table. So what you see here, okay, is you see a little bit of thread coming out here. What that means is that when I finished here, I moved that there. That's one way of, trying to make it pretty. I'm going to go ahead and bring this, let's see if I can get this turned around real quickly so that you can see what we're going to do on the back side. Okay. So the frame stand, like my other frame stand, okay, and no, it's not pretty because I was working brick stitch, and brick stitch is not always pretty on the back side. Okay, so the one I'm working on is it this one? Yeah, that's the one I'm working on. Okay, what I'm going to do, this is a technique I learned from Darlene Osteen's The Proper Stitch, okay? And that is, you are trying to make sure that when you're stitching, you try to make sure your threads go the same direction every time. So yeah, I know in previous ones I haven't done that, but it depends on where you're going and what you're doing. So I'm going to do a weaving with my little knot. I still have my away waist knot. You guys all know me and my waist knot. So I'm going to go do a weaving here. I'm going to try to do a weaving here. Come on, get in there. Originally I was using a flat silk. Again, I said I can't remember where I put these threads. Most of the time over the years, I've learned to make sure that I put all my threads in a little baggie, opening up the baggie every so often if it's got silk and wools in it. Either put it in a little cloth baggie or in a little, and attach it to the project. If I can't attach to the project, make sure it's somewhere where it will be able to be seen. Okay, so there's my thread. I'm going to put that there so I can see it. I'm going to come back around. So I'm going to undo the sides. Okay, I'm going to flip this. I'm going to bring it back so that you guys can see what we're doing. There we are. Okay. So now I decided to wear my cheaters today. So, split stitch. So what I'm using today, thread-wise, it is another silk. It is a spun silk instead of a flat silk. Difference between spun silk and flat silk is that a spun silk, I completed this stitch here as I'm doing my thing. A flat silk is made from silk filaments. Spun silk is made from the leftovers from making, filaments. Also, every so often they have to let the silkworm live, so they'll let it chew its way out of the silk pod. And when it's done with its cocoon, they open up the cocoon. They throw the cocoon in boiling water, open it up, and voila, you have silk. But since it doesn't have the long filaments that a traditional cocoon would have, or a cocoon processing would allow, it's spun together to create a silk. Okay, so what you have here is a spun silk floss, and yeah, they're going to be a little bit different. I may go back and just tear all this out, but I figure this is a good place to kind of show you some of the starting and stopping techniques. Okay, so I have 2 threads here, and this is important, and I'm probably going to grab a laying tool to make this a little bit easier for me. So this is a laying tool. Let me show you the laying tool. Okay, laying tool. They come in metal, wood. Generally, some people might say, well, it looks like an awl to me. And it's like, yeah, it's got a pointy end. And depending on the main thing about a laying tool, there are malures. There's all kinds of different laying tools for different techniques. The main thing is that it has a very smooth end, and sometimes that sharp edge is really handy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my threads are laid. I'm going to pull that down. Okay, you don't have to use a laying tool if you're doing split stitch. Generally I wouldn't, except for in this case I'm working with a very thin, fine thing. Oh, I'm going to have to take my glasses off. Even with the cheaters, I'm having problems. I must be getting old or something. So it's called split stitch because look here. I am coming in between the 2 threads. I am splitting the stitch. Okay, I'm splitting. And I just lost it. There's my ladylike squeal that comes out every time I mess up. Okay, so back we go. And yes, you'll probably do the same thing. You'll go, I just messed up. Okay, so I've come back halfway, all right, on the line of my stitching. Okay, and you can use this for outlining. You can use this for, and as I said, outlining and, okay. So my next step, I'm going to make sure it's, nice and evenly split there. I'm going to go a few. Again, I am, what am I about? Consistency more than teeny tiny. Try to find a nice even line. So we are going, and I'm trying to make sure that I theoretically catch that little bit of thread on the back. Okay, try to make sure that. Okay, has my cat been in my sewing room again? Ugh. Yeah, well, it hasn't. This one hasn't been off the off the wall in a while. Yeah, I store most of mine on, I hang them up on a wall. Okay, so I'm going to go boop. Did my little thing. I'm going to bring it over. Yeah, okay. I'm going to come through. See, I'm not tightening it down immediately. And the reason I'm not tightening it down immediately is so that I can see where my split is. Makes it a lot easier. Okay. And I pull. And I'm going back. When would I normally use I use these lovely little oops, well that one I went tight, but that's okay. You can still split. You're going back about halfway, coming back. And I'm going to try to keep it as split as possible. Now people may ask, well, how much thread are you going to use for this? And I'll tell you, when you're stitching, you should never, ever, 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 ever use more than 18 inches of thread. Okay, I'm going to grab my scissors. Where's a pair of scissors? Oh, where can my scissors be? Oh, where are my scissors? Who has my scissors? Which bag has a pair of scissors? I mean, I have a pair of scissors here. Where are they? They're right here. I have a pair of scissors. These are actually, are these the ones I think they are? These are metal thread scissors here. These are actually metal thread scissors. They have a serrated, the blade on one side is serrated, and that's for metal threads. But it's okay. I'm going to use it to cut the silk. Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody, okay? Like I've said before, you may want, when you're buying embroidery scissors, get yourself a nice, really good pair for most of your thread work. And then later, as you get into different forms of embroidery, you can move on to things like the nice, okay, I think I'm at a point where I need to do my, okay, pull my needle down, split my thread, there we go, and up. Boop. Okay. There comes a point when you're going to want to get, scissors or embroidery scissors for the purposes of the embroidery that you are doing. If you're doing gold work, you're going to definitely want metal scissors. Number one, they cut the metal better. Come on, baby. Split the stitch. I don't do a lot of split stitch in some of the things I've been working on lately. Mostly I do lace making now. But I used to do a lot of split stitch. Oh, I didn't pull my bag. I should have pulled my little bag so you could see what you can do with split stitch. I mean, split stitch just does some beautiful things. It's one of those that really can be used to, it was used often in faces of your opus anglicanum, because you can make the cheat, you can, you could get those shadows and highlights that you really wanted. I mean, obviously they're more cartoony than if you were doing a, yeah, it's a little thicker. I'm going to definitely, if I come back to this, I'll definitely need to deal with the, okay. And we're going around the curve, and it goes around curves very nicely, right? This is one thing that I will say is the nice thing about the using a laying tool with my stitching is it keeps me from doing my sewings, because I am a sew. I do like to use sewing stitch, or to apply my needle in a sewing fashion more than the. So hopefully you can see where it's going. It is a little bit thicker because I'm using a different type of thread. So I will probably go back and take these at some point, pull this out or snip it out, okay? And then redo the whole thing in the same thread, because I have tons of, I can get a hold of soie d'Alger at anything, okay? So when you want to finish it, again, what you can do is you can go in, you do your stitch, and then you come back out a little ways on, and when you start the other one, you do your weaving, and then you just make sure that you get this in here. I probably won't cut this right now, because usually I'll cut it down a little bit, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want long threads, excuse me. I don't want long threads causing me issues. But in this case, we're good. You know, still have a lot of thread left, so I'm going to have to, if I can't find my threads, I will definitely come back. You know, I'll probably, I don't know if I'm going to work, I may show brick stitch at some point, but I've got other stitches to show you. So they'll have to wait. Dang cat. Okay. So leave questions in the comments. Talk to you later. Bye.